Okay, we're live.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're back in action, and our item now is, if I had it in front of me here, we have the commissioner with us this morning, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct. And also Director Smith is
Okay.
joining
Oh,
me.
yeah, we can't forget him. Yes, we'll remember Mike. Yes. He will scold me if I forget him. Okay. All right, Commissioner, what have you got to tell us this morning? A report on release of information by the DMV.
Correct. So we're on the agenda to review two reports that we're required to submit. The first one is the Driver's Privacy Protection Act report that you requested last year, and then the suspension report that we're required to submit annually. So we have provided the report to all of you, and it is online. We have not put a PowerPoint together. I'm going to walk through the report, but I will not, I'm going to highlight the sections of the report and then answer any of your questions. I promise I won't read this whole report to you. So if we could, Liz, if it's possible for you to put up the annual report that is identified as Driver Privacy Protection Act.
Okay. Is this the report on, is it on the CIP today?
My understanding it is, I believe
Okay.
Jordan sent it to you.
Okay. Yep. All right. Just making sure I have. Is it the, okay. Yep. Here we go. You need to put me off.
Thank you. That would not be it. That is the suspension report, Liz. Sorry.
That's okay. I am not sure because there was a little bit confusion with the documents today. I don't think I have what you are looking for. Maybe we can start with Mike Smith's summary of 2016 to 20 annual suspension report, and then I need to find whatever it is, the other report.
So Jordan is listening to our testimony and he will get that to you, and let's move to Director Smith doing the overview of the suspension report. Thank
Okay.
you.
Apologies.
Apologies for any confusion, committee members.
No problem.
You just all really wanted me to go first anyway.
Well, I mean, we just can't wait to hear from you, Mike. You know what I mean? It's such an interesting, you just get us excited.
Okay. For the record, Michael Smith, Director of Operations for DMV. Good morning, everybody. Liz, could you throw up what you just had up there?
Yes, I can. And I also want to make, yeah. Okay, share screen.
Please.
Hold on.
How's work going, Mike? Busy?
It is always busy here.
Never a
but-
dull moment, huh?
No, but I will tell you, and I told Wanda the other day, it's like I come in at 7:45 and the next thing I know it's 4:30. The day just flies. So
There you
and I
go.
like that.
There you go. Good.
But Mike, I used to tell staff, we pay you to be busy.
You do, and thank you.
Mhm.
So I am living up to what you were giving me.
Well,
Oh, good.
Wanda's trying to get you up to $15 an hour, so she's made a recommendation. So we're thinking about it. Jane's going to think about it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Add it to my list.
Okay, so Liz, you had up there. Now we're seeing your email.
Oh, you are? Okay. All right. Rats. I can't talk to Jordan when I'm, okay.
Okay.
All set? Apologies.
No, quite okay. All right. So what is up in front of you is not the report. What is up in front of you is a portion of the report, and it shows all of the years that we've been filing it from 2016 to 2020. And I want to speak from this because it shows the progression of all of the data we've been collecting over the years. And I believe this tells many tales, but it tells the tale of what the legislature's been trying to do in reducing the number of suspensions. And as we walk through this, you'll see the numbers are going down, which is what the intent was. So chart top left-hand corner, total suspensions imposed. And I'm not going to read all of the data to you. I'm just going to highlight a little bit and move through. If you have questions, just let me know. So
Well,
total
1A doesn't look so good, Mike.
I didn't say they were all going to be good. So, but let me just kind of work through it. So, total suspensions imposed, that is imposed on every person. So as you can see in 2016, it was 21,000. And in 2020, it was about 12,500. So, non-payment of traffic violations. When you look at that data, as Senator Kitchell just pointed out, it's interesting that it really dived from 2016 to 2019, but then there was a spike from 2019 into 2020.
Is that COVID?
I believe that we're going to see, and I'm going to mention COVID quite a bit as we move through this. I believe that this is related to COVID, but I don't have as strong of opinion of that as I do in the other categories that we're going to get to. So, so bottom left-hand corner, accumulation of points against a person's driving record. Changes have been made over the years to remove violations that suspend individuals and provide points for non-safety related issues. As you can see, the numbers have gone down significantly from 2016 at just over 2,000 to 2020, just over 1,200. So,
Right. Or Senator Mazza?
did someone have a question?
I did.
Oh, I don't know if I can.
No, anybody have a question?
Yeah.
Andy did.
I can't see. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, are these three things the reasons for the suspension or just numbers? Like, for example, on the 1B, the points, is that total points or this only points that resulted in the suspension?
Only points that resulted in suspension.
Okay, thank you.
As we, whoops, sorry.
Another question.
Yes. Senator Kitchell?
Yeah, I realize we're jumping around, Mike, and you shouldn't put graphics in front of us because our synapses start snapping. But that dramatic increase from on 1A, which is really more than a doubling. Do you have any idea in terms of what the amount of those payment fines would look like?
I do not know,
Is
because
it possible?
the fine ranges are there's a large range in there. I could
Yeah, I
try and
know.
ask. I can try and ask the Judicial Bureau, but this is a snapshot in time, and a lot of those fines may have been paid, or some of those fines may have been paid right now. But if you're looking, are you interested in like what the total liability of unpaid fines is?
Yeah, well, right. We've been so concerned about the license suspension, and when the license suspend, then people end up driving without it or have trouble getting to work. I'm just, we've tried to understand better the COVID impact on people. So if you're unemployed and you've got a traffic violation and a fine to pay, and we know people are having trouble paying their rent, having trouble paying their light bill. It's not surprising we're seeing this here. I just was wondering what the overall obligation was, but if you can find that out, that would be good.
I will ask the Judicial Bureau.
Okay, thank you.
And Director,
Senator Ingalls, go ahead.
do we know how many, I'm sure we do, but I don't know if it's available to you. Do we know how many licensed drivers we have in the state?
We do. I do not have that offhand, but I can find that.
Okay.
I believe it's around 546,000, but I will get the number for you. Drivers. Okay. All right. So continuing right along. So moving into 1C, criminal DUI conviction. So this is where I believe that you can see the direct correlation with COVID-19. Now,
Of course, the courts are shut down.
Correct. And you have the issue of law enforcement not being on level 1. They've moved to level 2, which my understanding is they're only stopping for very egregious violations, which will explain why, in conjunction with the courts being closed, that you're not seeing these numbers go up. So
And the bar is closed.
Oh,
yes.
It's not stopping a lot of them from drinking, I can tell you that.
Yeah, they're all going to Mazda's store and buying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, alcohol sales are up.
Okay, Liz, could you move to the next slide, please? Okay, so continuing right along. So, these next slides, they're all going to be around, convictions for either civil or criminal. So 1D, civil DUI suspensions, the reduction you're seeing there directly correlates to the criminals because criminals go hand in hand with civils and vice versa. So, we're seeing a significant downgrade in the number of people that are receiving civil DUI suspensions. Moving into 1E, which is your civil DUI suspensions for those under the age of 21. Numbers were never really that high, not in comparison to the others, which is a good thing for our youth. But clearly you can see the progression downwards, which is, again, indicative of everything that's going on with, COVID-19 and the court systems. So 1F, bottom left-hand corner, underage alcohol violation, failure to report to diversion. This one's an interesting slide because in 2016 you had 216, but you had I don't want to say a huge spike. You had a spike in 2018 up to 315, but now we're seeing the progression back downwards, which again is the trend that we're hoping to see. 1G, bottom right-hand corner, underage cannabis violations, failure to report and complete diversion. Again, you saw a spike between 2016 and 2017, but then a downward progression, and it's continuing downward to 53 in 2020.
So, Mike, this
Yes.
is Jane.
Mhm.
I guess that's probably obvious since I'm the only female voice on the committee. Where this is when they fail, but out of the universe of individuals underage that were sent to diversion, do we have some idea of what this is the failure part? But I don't know if that's like 2% and 98% comply with diversion or whatever is required of them. Do we have the figures? In other words, is it 53 failed, or out of a universe of 200, or that's what I'm wondering.
So I understand your question. The department only gets notified when they fail to comply. So those are that's the only data element that the DMV has, because we only get involved when there's a failure to do what you're supposed to.
Okay.
So, I would imagine diversion would be able to provide those numbers.
Yeah, okay. All right. I was just wondering, obviously this just gives us the data on that you have, and that is
Right.
when there's a failure.
Right. Okay, and if there's no other questions, it doesn't look it. Liz, could you slide up to the next page, please? Okay, so now we break into 2, and 2 is the unique number of unique individuals whose licenses were suspended in 2018 or 2018. Wow, 2020. So again, when you look at all of these graphs, they all have the progression downward. So 2016 we had almost 14,000. In 2020 we are down to just about 9,000, just under 9,000.
What's a unique driver's license suspension?
So when people get suspended, you can have multiple suspensions. So a DUI will generally end up in 3 suspensions: civil, criminal, and an insurance suspension. So when we say unique individuals, we're counting them once. Because otherwise, if you said, give me the total number of suspensions in Vermont, I would give you a number that would scare you, because there's multiple suspensions on the same individual.
Okay.
So next one over on the right-hand side is unique individuals licensed suspended with a state of record of Vermont. And again, you're seeing a downward progression, and in 2020 it was just over 7,500 individuals. Bottom left-hand corner is total active suspensions in effect. And Senator Mazza, this is the number that'll scare you, because this is the total amount on our system. And as you can see, in 2020, it's 261,000 suspensions. But again, that's not individuals. And that's why I want to make sure that's very, very clear, because that's total suspensions. And, some of the records I've seen with, traffic tickets and other violations, there could be 20 open suspensions on one individual, depending on what they've done and depending on whether they were ever reinstated. So again, that's a scary one. So
Boy, that's half of the licenses then in Vermont.
but remember, this is not unique individuals. This is total suspensions.
Total suspension, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Liz,
So there's a duplication.
yes, Liz, that you moved the screen.
So Mike, we know that judiciary, this was a real source of concern, and that was using license suspension as the penalty for various violations, oftentimes not even related to driving, but for other reasons. So what we're seeing here, I believe, is the result of those statutory changes that reduce the number of situations that would result in suspension of a driver's license.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Liz, are you, there we go.
Sorry, I'm trying to work at the same time. It's crazy.
No, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. So,
I think this is really important information to share with our judiciary committees, because this is really, to me, the data that reflects what has been the impact of those deliberate changes around the using license suspension as the penalty.
yes.
I know there's certain things we have no choice. For example, non-payment of child support.
Right, right. And DUIs and stuff like that. So,
Right.
Okay, so now we're on to 3B, top left-hand corner, accumulation of points against a person's driving record. And, again, this reflects not only, I think, COVID, but it also reflects the work that's happened, as you just identified, Senator Kitchell, in regards to removing some of the violations that had points that had nothing to do with driving violations, and removing those reasons for suspension. 3C is criminal DUI convictions. And again, you're seeing that downward trend. And I think a lot of that is COVID, as well as, law enforcement and the judiciary branch being.
Like this went through June 30th of this year, right?
No, I believe this is calendar year.
Oh,
Through
this
the end of,
calendar year. So
yes.
this year is going to be a shocking year for statistics then.
It is. And hopefully, as we, as time goes by and people reflect back on graphs like this, we remember COVID. And quite frankly, I don't know as though we're ever going to forget COVID.
This is going to be a really telling way off. It'll be all over the place this year because it's got a full year of COVID.
Yep.
Yeah.
But don't forget, calendar year 2020, the courts were shut down from March through the end of the year.
Yes.
So 3/4 of 2020, there was really very little court work because of the emergency declaration. So there's the big concern is not only with these kinds of cases, but other criminal cases and the huge backlog that the courts have got to deal with once they can start operating again.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm reminded.
And I think it's also going to inflate the number of suspensions and convictions for that time period. So there's going to be a bubble there, and we just got to all remember what that's
Yeah,
from.
yeah, absolutely. It's just deferred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Although
So-
one would think with the trend that we saw pre-COVID, that it would still be maybe downward, but just not as precipitous as these graphs show.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving right along, I think we were on 3D, civil DUI suspensions. And again, I mean, we're seeing the downward progression. And 3E is the same thing. That is for individuals under the age of 21. And again, the numbers are continuing to drop down. Liz, if you could move up to the next slide, please. So again, underage alcohol violations, failure to complete diversion. Those numbers are following the trend down. Interestingly, when you get to 3G, those seem to be parallel, and kind of tracking right around the same number. So that's definitely an interesting slide, and I would imagine that probably is related to the statute changes in regards to marijuana. So number 4, unique individuals with suspensions in effect. You can see the progression again downwards. And in 2020, we have almost 91,000 unique suspensions in effect in Vermont. And the next one over on the right bottom is unique individuals with suspensions in effect with a state of record is Vermont. And it's interesting that you see that one go up, and the graph looks strange because the numbers are so low. So low is probably a bad way to say it, but the change of 49,528 from 2019 to 49,819 in 20 does make it look like a spike back up. So it does not track like the others.
Senator Mazza.
Yes, Senator Purchase.
Mike, on the 3G, what can you, or maybe other senators can remind me when the cannabis legalization or not decriminalization took effect? Wasn't that that wasn't 2016, was it? I thought it was later.
I don't remember offhand. I believe it was 2018.
Right. So it's like 2018. So I know first we decriminalized it and then we kind of legalized it, so to speak, without the sale. So if that happened in 2018, that hasn't impacted it. I mean, I don't know what happened from 16 on, but
right.
It seemed like you made a comment that thought that law change had an impact here, but it seems like if anything,
But I think it has had an impact. It's just, the numbers are very close, right? So, and I guess it'd be interesting to see how these numbers track over the next few years, and really get a telltale. So,
okay. Thank you.
And Liz, if you can go to the last slide, and this one I'm not going to really talk about. I'm just going to, other than to tell you what it is. And this is just a graph that shows all of the information on one page. And we showed the percent of change, either up or down. Well, they're all down in regards to 2016 through 2020. So this is definitely an interesting page as well.
Senator Mazza.
Yes, go right ahead.
I did not relate it to suspensions, so to speak, but does the Judicial Bureau or somebody else keep track of all, not violations, but reasons that Vermonters get pulled over?
Ooh, I don't
They would
believe.
not. They would only know, they're only collecting the fines. So I don't, if somebody got, Andy, are you saying a lot of people get pulled over and just get a warning? You're not concerned about them. You're talking about those that actually are subject to a fine.
Well, maybe both. Specifically, constituents asked me about the license plate light bulb. Like you have to have your rear license plate illuminated.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll pull you over if you don't. These constituents didn't like it for whatever reasons. They had specific conditions. But regardless, I wondered if there was if we had data as a state that says how many times is somebody pulled over for not having their license plate illuminated? Like is that, how common is that for a reason to pull someone over? Or how often do people get pulled over for not having an inspection sticker or something? Like, is that data collected, or am I asking the wrong people? Is that public safety or something?
I think you need to ask public safety that, because at the end of the day, the Judicial Bureau is going to communicate to DMV tickets that were issued, right? Either paid or not paid. So if there's no ticket or violation issued, we would not have any, we wouldn't know about it.
Keep getting pulled over for speeding.
I never get pulled over for speeding.
Mike, when someone loses their operator's license, is it your department that sends them the notice that takes their license back to your department?
Yes, the commissioner is the only one who can suspend somebody's license.
And then, so you give them like 10 days or something to get it back to you, or how's that work? Is it?
So we do not collect licenses anymore. Licenses are your form of identification, so we do not ask that they be returned. That statute changed, I want to say like 10 years ago. So we send a notice to the last known address advising them that they will be suspended as of X date. For traffic tickets, I believe it's a 21-day lead time. DUIs, depending on where you're at, it could be 10 days. Your out-of-state suspensions would be 30 days. So there's various different lead times.
And so when an officer stops some car, they don't look at the driver's license. They check the driver's license and put it in their computer, and it says that it's suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
That's how it works. All right.
Yep.
Okay. So they still have the license on them, but it's not active.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead.
That is the end of of the suspended license report. And unless other people have questions, I would turn it back to the commissioner to start on the other one.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Any other questions from Mike at this time? You certainly have a lot of information to gather. Wow.
Yeah, and trust me, I'm not going anywhere. I will be staying on to
Well,
help the
well,
commissioner.
I just wonder all the time about the computer system to handle so many thousands and thousands of pieces of documents that we hope that it survives.
I can tell you that the line of code that processes suspensions, from what I'm told from the programmers, is about 26,000 pages long.
Wow.
It is an
Wow.
incredible program,
Oh, God.
and it can't break.
Okay, Commissioner, I think you're next. Is that correct?
I am next. Mike and I will be tag teaming on this
Okay,
one.
go right ahead.
But I
It's going
would,
to take me a minute to post this document as
all right.
well.
Go ahead.
yes. And if the committee members have it in front of them, Liz, I could talk to it if it's.
I don't think they do.
Okay.
I'm doing it right now.
All right.
Are they still offering driver's trainings, Wanda, for licenses and everything? They're still providing driver
Yep.
training?
We, during COVID, so, I mean, public schools are still offering the training.
Okay.
And then we, apparently, many, many years ago, DMV had a process to allow private instructors to give testing and to
Oh,
do
okay.
driver's training. And they started to remove that program. However, with COVID, we actually reinstated it. And because we couldn't get, students wanted to get prepared for when we opened to get their operating license.
Right.
So working with our educational unit, we actually brought that program back, and approximately 30 of the private instructors, and some are school district employees and some are private, re-engaged in an agreement and helped deliver driver's education to Vermonters.
You don't have inspectors that you have to get your license. You don't have to go to your folks do it.
So you come to our educational unit and there's some curriculum and agreements, but the inspectors don't qualify you. Is
Oh,
that
okay.
what you're saying?
So there's no road test from you folks.
For the instructors or for the individuals?
No, for the student or the person getting a license.
Oh, gosh, yes, yes.
Okay, still do it.
We are still doing that. We started it, we opened back up in June, and we were doing those services outside
Okay.
in 3 locations. But no, we are doing testing.
Okay.
I think the numbers are about, I want to say, Mike, I think they're around 200, 220 a week, right around there. I have that number stuck in my mind, but
A
absolutely.
good number to have stuck.
And we also are, we talked about this in the beginning, and we're using interpreters when
Yes, I heard-
needed.
saw that. Yeah, that's
Yep.
good.
Yep. So while Liz gets us ready, I think for the, thank you, for the existing members of the committee, we did take, you took a lot of testimony on the sale of information that DMV provides in accordance with the Driver Privacy Protection Act. And during those discussions, we agreed that we needed to go back and align our policies and practices and to focus on what information is being provided and what is the method in which we're tracking and providing this. So you asked us to report in 5 specific areas. And so this is what I'm going to summarize. So in this report on page 1 that we're looking at, we have item number 1. So you asked us to report on the permissive disclosures under the DPPA that the department is and is not releasing information. So this report reflects the business we are doing today, the changes that we made after testimony last year, and as we started to modify and revisit our policies. So in section A, we are releasing information under the Driver's Privacy Protection Act in these categories. And I will just highlight, but we release to government agencies, including any court or law enforcement. We release motor vehicle or driver safety and theft information. And this is to support recalls or advisories. And actually, when we say we release, we sell also. I mean, we don't give most of it we sell. Government agencies get it for no fee. Course, in the normal course of business by a legitimate business, and let me share with you, the common one for this is the trucking industry, and the employees will sign a release to the businesses to allow them to get their driving record, to validate they hold a CDL, that they have no suspensions, that they have no DUI. It fits into all of those categories. For use in connection with any civil or criminal administrative proceeding, and research activities. Mike, I think you have some great examples of where this is permissible for research activities that you could share with the committee.
I'd be happy to. So the one that comes to mind is one that we recently dealt with, and I believe it was the town of Hartford that was doing some research in regards to emissions and vehicles in their town and surrounding towns. So, when they asked us for the data, they wanted to have, personal information as well, but we don't release the personal end. So what we ended up doing was creating a file that listed make, model, and year of vehicles and the VIN numbers. And then through the VIN numbers, they were able to utilize our AVIP system, the inspection system, and by running the VIN, you can see inspection history on that vehicle, no personal information, but it shows the mileage at each time that you had your vehicle inspected, so they could look at that data. So again, it's research on motor vehicle information, but no personal information is shared, no owner information.
And I think the point that Mike just made, most of this information is we always protect the personal information, no matter which data run we are doing. And the personal information is defined in the DPPA. And that is our goal. It is to protect that personal private information, but allow for normal course of business for vehicles registered or licenses to occur. Liz, if we can go to the next page, please. And so we also, I think we've the top, right, perfect. I know that you had testimony and concern from many insurance companies. That's the top one. So this is still a permissible use. And I think you've all learned that the insurance industry uses that information to set its rates and to determine what is in the best interest for Vermont overall. And we also, for employers to obtain or verify CDLs specifically, that is the last bullet. You asked us to evaluate, which we had committed to do last year, under the DPPA, where the state of Vermont would not release information. And so this is what section B is, and this is how our policy is today and how we are operating. And just very quickly, in section B3B, Mike, I think you have a great example for this one too, because we allow it under B3A, but not under B3B. That was like a tongue twister.
It was. So and I think that I hate to point out that our report might be wrong, but I think this section is wrong, because the part that we took out was under 3B, it's to verify the information, and under B3B, it said to provide the correct information. So if you said, I want to verify that Michael Smith with my date of birth has a valid license and lives at this address, we, under the original premise of the bill or of the regulation, we would say, no, that's incorrect. Here's the right address. Well, we took that piece out. So we will verify, yes, this information is correct, or no, it's not. And we do not provide the correct information. They need to figure that out.
So we will correct the report, and I agree with Director Smith, and we will resubmit an amended report to make sure that that is referenced correctly. We are not providing information on owners or lien holders for towed or impounded vehicles. We currently operate out of the Enforcement Division and Abandoned Vehicle section. And they address this, and this is how the information is communicated. So we don't sell data on this. If it's an abandoned vehicle and the tow company needs information, they go directly through our Enforcement Division. We do not provide information or access to our information on private investigators. And this was one of the large issues last year. For many years, the DMV had computer stations set up. Private investigators were approved to be able to go in and to look up records. We can still provide eligible information to private investigators, but they must come to my office. They come to the main office at 120 State Street. They have to complete the DPPA form, and they have to present a document. And 9 times out of 10, it is because they are doing research for an attorney. And they present that document that they are representing the attorney who is collecting information. Private toll operators. We don't receive requests from private toll operators, and information shared with the state toll authorities is shared under a permissible use in Section 1. And I think the simple example of this is we do provide a data file to Massachusetts. So when people are running the tolls, that they get the license plate is connected. Go ahead, Mike. He wants to correct me.
No. I want to add on to that. So basically, we don't send them our total file. They send us a file with the license plates that they would like information on. Just wanted to provide that.
And bulk distributions for surveys they're making of marking of solicitations. Mike, you get most of the requests on this, so we're not providing it, but I think you could give a great example of that one too to the committee.
I don't have a great example, unfortunately, on this one, but we don't. Basically, we decided long ago, and it's, I believe, the appropriate decision, that we do not want our data used for contacting individuals. Right. Now, don't confuse that with the fact that we provide data for factory recalls, which would contact individuals, but that's a different section and a different reason. So,
okay. So if there's no questions, we will move to the next question you asked us to respond to. And so you asked us to report on the statistics for calendar year 2020 and our new, perfect, right there, Liz. And any new applicants on the number of requests that we received under permissive disclosures and the breakdown of how many. So in 2020, you will see for the permissive disclosures how many new requests we received. And if you don't have any questions on that, if you go to B, you will see that, and you can scroll down, Liz. We denied in 2022. We had 2 specific requests on driver safety and theft that were denied. And if you go to the next page. So what section 2 does, A and B, is it talks about new requests that we had coming in for the year. Section C, just down a little bit, Liz. Oops, I'm sorry, up. I want to scroll down. This section C are our ongoing requests. And this section is really going to tie in when, nope, don't move. Thank you. It's going to tie into the financial summary that you will see. So when you see these total numbers of approved, there may be, we have ongoing, and I will go to the insurance company. We have ongoing data that is sold and provided to insurance companies, 16 in particular. That could be on a weekly basis, it could be bi-weekly, it could be monthly. And so on the ongoing request, we have a process in place that we approve it for a year, and then we validate and review with our partners in NIC. So most of the information in the total numbers here is what is being provided through our third-party agreement with NIC, which used to be known as VIC. So section D is made on behalf of another person as defined in Title 128. And Mike, if you could just summarize how these numbers are brought together and what it reflects, I think it will be easier.
So these are total driving records that were produced. So individuals that are accessing the NIC system to pull driving records, whether it be for verification of, your license status for a driving position, commercial or non-commercial, or an insurance company. Basically, they are driving record requests. So total number of driving record requests that came in were 243,000. When you look at free driving records, those also come through NIC, but those are state agencies that have been set up to pull driving records directly through the vendor. So there's a total of them, and those all added together come up to the 251,000 driving records. So again, when we look at purchased on behalf of another individual, insurance companies are getting this stuff, it's on behalf of somebody else.
Right. You also asked us, so as we had presented last year, the request for information comes through directly through, it all comes through DMV, but either we produce it or NIC produces it. So you asked for the breakdown, and item number 3 shows that we had 5,487 records sold directly by DMV. And we had 170 unique individuals or corporations request driving records through our online portal. So the majority of the information that is provided and sold in accordance to statute is through our partner at NIC. You also asked us to present or provide updates to policies, procedures, and documents that are related to the permissive disclosures. And I think the easiest way, if Liz, if you could just scroll down a little bit. What I'd like to say in this report is we have included attachment A, which is the new policy that we revised for all of our employees and for our partners. Attachment B is a revised record request that aligns with the changes that we put into the policy into the permissible use. Attachment C is the required Driver Privacy Protection Act agreement that every requester or user has to complete and sign. Attachment D is the DMV approval letter. And we are now, with every request, the requests are being vetted by myself and by Director Smith. So we have 2 people looking at the request. The old process is it really just, it came in and our attorney would take, our attorney may take a look at it and approve it, and then it was just forwarded. And what we learned is we did not have a detailed record of the request. I want to take you back. I think there was an article that was done last year that showed a database of hundreds of thousands of people who we provided information to. What we learned is that was an accumulative list of everyone that we gave authority to. It did not track who was current and where changes were made. So through this approval letter and process, we've implemented this new system in place, and we will meet annually with Nick, and our expectation with them is that they also every year go out and we have people resubmit and modify who has access and if they still want records. And I'm trying to scroll it. If you could go, Liz, if you could continue down. Yes. Perfect. One of the other items that you asked us to report on is how much we collect on an annual basis. And this is a breakdown of the fees that we collected in 2020. And it's broken out by the subdivisions under 23 VSA 114. And all of these funds that fees that are collected are deposited into the transportation fund. And these are on the permissible uses. So I'm sure you will see that the certified copy of the 3-year operating records for Vermont only is the largest data that is provided and that we collect the fee on. And Mike, the majority of this is the ongoing request with insurance companies, as I understand it. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
And so those were the pieces of the report that you asked us to provide, to give you a response to. And then if you could stop right there. I think this is a really important document for you to understand, because as we talk about all of these records and records that we sell, this is a sample, and I'll have Mike walk you through, where it shows that this is what the record looks like, but how it also protects that personal information.
So this is and you know, the commissioner had gone through the the form that is filled out by the requesting individual that would then be approved by the commissioner and myself, and then there's a letter that's sent from NIC, our vendor, saying you have access to request driving records. So this is the output that comes from their approval. So this would be what was shown on a driving record. Individuals to access the NIC system must have the individual's driver license number. So when they input the driver's license number, it pulls the data from our files and it presents it back. You can see the name on this, and I can't point, but the name is Test MVR9. So this is just a sample record. And you'll notice right below that it says address. And that is blank because we don't print addresses on driving records, okay? Going to the right-hand side, you can see their Vermont PID, which is their license number or ID number. Below it is the date of birth. And then it moves down through convictions, accidents, stuff like that, suspension records. You can see that this test record there's a point suspension, a civil DUI, a civil refusal, a lifetime suspension for DUI. Then it moves into the financial responsibility record, which is SR22s. That's probably what most people, understand them as, and the reasons why, and then the effective date of those suspensions that caused it, and then end data. So that's the end of the report. But, the premise behind showing this is to, really formalize that, not a lot of data is shared, and you must know the data in order to get the data. Right? So you've got to have identifying individual information in order to access the file. So
car dealers can't call and say, I want a list of everyone who owns a Subaru or something.
Correct, but they would be able to say, could you tell me how many Subarus are in Chittenden County? And, you know, and stuff like that, but we would not give individual information.
Specifics, okay. And
Correct.
no other advertising company has access to all these names. They can't sell you something or, you know, okay.
No, and you know, and it's unfortunate because I think we take a bad rap. Well, we take a bad rap in a lot of things, but all of these calls that say, "Hey, your warranty's about ready to
Oh
run
my
out,"
God, where is
is-
that coming from?
that is not our fault, and we are not providing the data. And the one solidifying fact that assures that we are not providing that data is, do you know what I don't have of yours? Your telephone number. Okay. There is a spot on our form where you can write that down. We do not key it. So we do not provide telephone numbers. I tell you, my father is 89 and he thinks he's the only one getting called for warranty service. And it's like,
Everybody.
Dad, you're not special. I hate to tell you.
What's the whole gimmick there? They want to, they'll sell you additional information or, okay, because they call twice a day and I've done everything. It's just unbelievable.
My daughter's 16 years old and she gets called too. And that's why I try and tell my dad, it's like, you're not special, you know, not in that way anyway. Everybody is getting these calls.
And
You
they
know, and
can't trace that back to somebody to correct it. I mean, there's no way of tracing it.
No, if you stay on the line long enough, I think you can press 2 to be removed from the list. And I don't think that works.
I've done that too. No, it doesn't work.
Oh,
no.
I know. And if you look at it, there's times where that phone number will come through and it will have like a 223 extension, which is Montpelier.
Yeah,
And
they
then it's
do.
like, oh.
Yeah, I got the other day from I
Yep.
think it was Waterbury or something. You know, it's just unbelievable. Yeah.
You know,
These
and
times you're gonna say yes, Senator Mazza, one of these times.
Yeah, right.
you know, but what I find concerning is how many people do you think do say yes?
Oh yeah, no,
Because
that's right.
I think there is, and
Yeah.
you know, and it's, I don't know.
Wow. Okay. All right. Questions, comments? A lot of
So-
information there. Yes, Senator Pertlick.
My main question is for the commissioner is, has anything changed from 2018? We spent a lot of committee time on this and, you know, it was in the press and everything like that. But it seems like this is the report on that we asked for. But has anything changed? Because I know you guys changed all your policies and we talked about that, but it seems like nothing is, you guys haven't changed any of your policies since that time, since 2019.
No, we've changed our practice and our policy. So when we testified, we made some immediate changes
Right.
based on the testimony. So this document is trying to, I mean, what we did is we looked at our whole process. We reevaluated every DPPA acceptable permissive use and made a decision on what to, because we were accepting everything. There was no review process and we did.
Right.
we
That
did
was
not-
before. That was the
Going-
original. It seemed like what was hard for me to follow in your presentation and the report is what has changed, because you had already made a bunch of changes based on
Yep.
the controversy, let's call it. And then, so I don't know if you further refined it
Yes.
and it seems like you've made other changes, but it was hard to tell which are new changes and which changes were made in 2019.
So so we solidified the changes we had talked about. We modified our driver privacy protection policy and dispersed that to employees and got that information out on the public record. We changed all of our forms. And it was really the significant change was aligning the items we had talked about and additional with policies and practices. And then we created a review process internally because before it was really, yeah, they filled out DPPA and we're going to provide it. We put in the review where I'm signing off and also Director Smith is looking at it because I think the information, it's easy to check a box and not understand what the request is and approve it. In addition, requesters have to provide a justification. They can't just check the box. They must provide a justification on why they're getting in the information and where it's being used. We're centrally storing it. So it really came down to best practices and putting in a clear process that had not been looked at for many years, Mike. I think we had talked about, maybe it went back to the early 2000s, late 1990s.
I would say 1994.
1994. And then we established a direct process and protocol with Nick. And so, and what we'll be doing this coming year is sitting back down with Nick and establishing how we will re-verify. We are going to have, we approve requests now only for 1 year, Senator. Before, when the requests were approved, it was never ending. No one ever went back. So every request is valid for 1 year, and then those have to be revisited.
No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate all the other changes you made before. Like you used to have that terminal people could go to and
Yeah.
look up the information themselves and things. So,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments, anything? Anything else you want to ask the commissioner or the Mike, directions, anything, director? God, that's pretty easy, just amazing. It must be doing something right, Wanda.
We got a great team at D&D. I appreciate all of them every day. So
Any member lose their license yet this morning or nothing? Okay.
I haven't signed a letter yet.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. for the good overview. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Have a great weekend. We will be seeing you next week to spend some time on the miscellaneous bill.
I will look forward to it. Thank you.
I believe we're starting that on Friday, just so you know.
Oh,
I was gonna say, I
that's-
think-
oh, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Or
Anything
Bye.
else today, Liz? Or are we all done?
I have to report that you have done your service for the day in Senate Transportation Committee. This
I
is
know
all
the
that you've
members are gonna be
done.
disappointed. You got other things you don't want to do, so.
Take care.
I will turn off the live
Okay.